Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our TID board meeting. Today is Monday, October 25th, 2021. If you'd please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. For those of you who are joining us to watch the work session of the Las Cruces City Council, that will be taking place here after we have our TID board meeting. So the City Council can also double up as the Tax Increment Development District, which is what we're doing here today. And if you're viewing and you happen to see Commissioner Shannon Reynolds up here, he did not jump ship. He is an ex officio member from Doña Ana County who will be participating, although he is not allowed to vote. So with that, we have a couple items. I have one item here, and that is the approval of the July 26, 2021 TID board meeting minutes. So I'll need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Board Member Beta Stuvi, second by Board Member Bencomo. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve the minutes from the July 26, 2021 TID board meeting. Board Member Abeta Stevie.
Yes.
Board Member Vasquez is absent. Board Member Bencomo.
Yes.
Board Member Sorg is absent. Board Member Flores is absent. Board Member Gandara.
Yes.
And Chair.
Yes. Okay, so we have 3 discussion items, and we have Chris Faber, who will be bringing us the financial update first. So, Chris?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the TID Board. Chris Faber, Economic Development. So yeah, I have three items to go over today. The first one is just the financial update of the TID. Secondly, just a quick update on current TID projects. And then lastly, a discussion about the Plaza shade structure and direction moving forward. So this is just a recap of where we ended last fiscal year with the TID, the month-to-month breakdown. And I put that in there as just a reminder, and then show you that for this year, TID revenues are up substantially. Talking with the Economic Development Department, Dr. Payadas, it's across the board. Increases in gross receipts tax are being reflected, and you can see those numbers here in the TID. So we're off to a really great start this first quarter. Collections are up over $700,000. So, and this is just the year-to-date that I put up every meeting, just showing the year-to-date, so you can see where we finished fiscal year 21 and where we are already year-to-date in fiscal year 22. So, already well on our way to those numbers from last year. These are the numbers for the 3 different accounts within funds within the TID. 2815 revenue and operations, about 4.6. Fund 4270 capital projects unrestricted, just a little over 1 million. And Fund 4271 restricted bond projects, a little over $500,000. So TID's in really good financial shape. Just a real quick update on some current TID projects. We've talked about these a few times before, but Compost Street redesign study. They will be wrapping that up sometime later this fall. That was, Burton Moles and Corbin was brought on by Public Works to take a look and see how to make Compost Street fit into the downtown more along the lines with Church Water and of course Main Street. So they're looking at various aspects there, and we should be getting that information finalized back in the fall. There were stakeholder meetings January, April, and then again August of this past year. So next steps, finalize the report, hopefully do a presentation to this TID board here in January with those findings. Design work to follow, 6 to 8 months, and roughly 10% of the construction costs, which are estimated to be about $3 million. And if you remember at the July TID meeting, that was one of the items that you approved was money out of one of the 4271 for the design, so Public Works can get that moving as soon as possible. Parking lot 7, just as a reminder, that's the parking lot right behind the Rio Grande Theater. The first half of that project is complete. The second half, which will be resurfacing the rest of the lot, demoing the current restrooms, and installing the new restrooms, will take part later this year once the prefabricated restroom facility is received and can be installed. So first half done, second half will be done later this year. And so the last item, did you have any questions to this point before we get into discussion about Plaza Shade?
No, it didn't look like.
Okay. So we spoke about Plaza Shade back at the July meeting. It was tabled for a few different reasons. So I went back and pulled together some background information and thought we could do a recap of where everything stands to date, and then try and get some direction moving forward so we can work with Public Works and other departments to bring something back to you at the next meeting if you choose to make this a TID-funded project. So several different design options were considered. I believe several were discussed at previous work sessions and in the past. I spoke with Mandy Gus at length about some of the things that happened before I was here at Economic Development. And it was noted that some of the most important design criteria that the consultants were looking at were no additional poles in the middle of the plaza, maintain sight lines to the stage from all points on the plaza, protect the sundial artwork in the middle, and be able to accommodate sight lines and open spaces for the holiday events like the Christmas tree that Parks and Rec puts up, all the holiday decorations, and then of course the chili drop that DLCP does for New Year's. It was of note that the SUFA data, which collects cell phone data on the plaza and certain areas downtown, indicated that it didn't really show much of a drop-off in attendance on the hotter days. So that was at least good information to know. From a sustainability standpoint, we talked about this at the July meeting, but the community solar option appears to be the best option moving forward to have solar power at the plaza versus doing panels there itself. Some of those reasons are, well, the annual cost is about $4,500, and the main thing is metal structure with solar panels on top could actually create what's called a heat oven, so it could actually increase the temperature in that particular area. And incorporating the shade, solar panels into the shade structure could increase cost and limit some of the design possibilities. So going with the community solar when that program becomes online is the best option for solar power at the plaza. So I'm just going to recap the 3 different designs that were presented at the August 2020 meeting, just to refresh everybody's memory. So the first one was the translucent panel, and you can see the little rendering on the screen up here. During the public input period that Public Works conducted prior to receiving these renderings, it was the second most popular option. About 35% of the people surveyed liked this design option. Sightlines are not an issue with this particular option. And of the 3 that they presented, it was the least expensive of the options. The retractive canvas, this was the most popular, slightly above the previous translucent design. About 45% of those surveyed liked that option. The big problem with this design is that the cabling that runs across the plaza to hold up the canvas it definitely interfere with some of the holiday events, chili drop, tree, etc. So it was the second most popular second most expensive option. And then again, the canvas is more susceptible to weather, wind, heat, that type of thing. And the one we discussed at the July meeting, which seemed to be favored by council last fall, was the decorative metal. On the feasibility study conducted by the public, it was the least popular of the options. And it could have implications with the Christmas tree and the chili drop and sightline issues as well. And it was the most expensive, and these prices have been sort of adjusted to deal with some of the price increases that we're seeing across the city. So I put together some next step recommendations to give the TID board a little direction as to how I think we could move forward. So I know there's been discussion with ACD and the Downtown Las Cruces Partnership about some concerns they have. So my recommendation would be to get all the city departments together, along with any other stakeholders like DLCP and Arts and Cultural District, to meet with the consultants, discuss some of their concerns with the design, and see if they can come up with some options that works for all the different parties involved and incorporates the art element that I believe everyone is interested in seeing. From a funding standpoint, I believe some of this you'll be addressing at the work session today, but there's potentially funds that could be available if there's reauthorization and of some of the state funds that were set aside for the parking garage. So that discussion will be at the work session. And if that's the direction the board chooses to go, and if the total cost of the project would be greater than the funds that you would have available from the state funds, you could always look to the TID for the balance of those funds. And what we could do then is come back with a resolution in January for the board to make that final decision. Construction, if this is the way we go, could begin in early 2023. And that seems like a long way off, but as Amy will talk about it at the work session, some of those funds, if they are reappropriated for the shade, won't be available till the fall of next year. And then this would sort of allow us to continue doing the holiday events and then start with some sort of construction in early 2023. Estimated costs, these are this is the range of the options I presented, 750,000 to 1.3. It could vary if they come up with a different design, but that's currently what we're looking at. And estimated completion time for the construction would be about 6 months. If we go this route, we could do a lot of the design work in advance so that when the remainder of the funds come available for construction, that we could just move right into that phase as well. So that concludes my presentation.
Before I get to questions, let me just remind council that, excuse me, if you recall, Senator Mary Kay Papin had gotten $1 million for the parking garage. And then she had suggested after she left office that if Senator Carrie Hamlin would be willing to reauthorize that $1 million for the shade structure, which I did reach out to her and she did agree to do that. And I think staff will be bringing forward a resolution to give to Larry perhaps, or even the senator, so that during this next legislative session, or I think they can do that right now without necessarily legislative section. I don't know. Larry can talk about that. But I just wanted you all to remember that. But I was going to ask Chris, I want to say it was at least 4 years ago, if not longer, staff had presented to City Council a different set of plans for shade, a little bit less costly and a little bit easier to maneuver than these, because these are permanent. I mean, the other ones were not quite as permanent, and I was just curious if you had access to those and if that was even a possibility to bring forward so that council can see those and they can see what was looked upon, say, 6 years ago versus now.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I did check in on that, and I wasn't able to track down any of the previous designs, but I did ask, and all I really was able to locate was information regarding the criteria that was given to the consultants.
Okay, no problem. So I'm going to now open up for questions. Did you have a question, Mayor Pro Tem?
I think he's asking for, Chris, thank you for your presentation. I do have a question and a couple of comments, Mayor. Thank you. Thanks, Chris, for your presentation. I think what's most important is Chris and staff are asking for direction moving forward with the options that were given. Chris, I just want to be clear that I think it's important to involve our arts and cultural district. I think that was one of the sticking points from their perspective. They didn't feel as involved as they felt they should. And whatever we pick, I would love to see it look like an art installation of some sort. And I've always been a huge support of the solar panel kind of option. I've also mentioned to you in our monthly meetings that I like the way the city of Albuquerque has put their shade structure. It's not, consistently covered overall, but there's some elements that look like art, but also they're sort of spread out so that if people want shade, they can get to that, specific spot and with chairs and such. So as far as going back to the three ideas, for me, I think it's important to bring back the consultant. I thought they were actually very well suited to assist us moving forward. I don't recall the name of the consultants per se, but they had a pretty sophisticated way of entertaining ideas and grading, if you will, or taking surveys on the spot. I think would be important. I'm sorry that I don't see anybody from the ACD here presently, but am I right? I don't see him in the audience, but I think whatever we do, again, the ACD should be a part of that conversation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Bencomo?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chris, for the presentation. Yes, I actually really appreciate you lifting up some of the next steps that need to happen. I feel like last time we were in this meeting, we did have several organizations, advocates, people who were directly impacted, who help the Plaza and downtown flourish, raise some concerns about this idea of shade and people feeling, honestly, I wouldn't want to say scared, but people feeling like this was going to have a huge impact on some of the holiday things you mentioned. And so, I take that very seriously because I love the Plaza. I think the Plaza we were just at an event a couple days ago, very well attended and really incredible. And I feel like it's such a great place, and I would hate to do something that could impact that. I'm still very uncomfortable with the price tag for shade. $1.3 million to me is very high for shade. And Mayor, the last time we had this conversation, I think you were gone for that, but part of what I had recommended was that we wait out this surge in cost prices, right? Public Works did say, like, we don't expect them to go down anytime soon, but maybe 6 months, a year. I don't necessarily think that's, we've lived in a sunny place this whole time. One more year of sunshine won't hurt anybody, but I just feel like this is a really big price tag on shade. And I think we should wait one more year. I really do, and I feel like I would certainly like to hear more input from some of these organizations that you've put on here, Chris. I think that's really important. And I was going to say something else, but yes, question. The data, how old is this data from the public?
Mr. Chair, Board Member Bencomo, I believe it was definitely pre-COVID. I feel like it was early 2019 that they conducted that, but Public Works might have an exact date. That's just what I was able to pull from the files, yeah. Okay, 2019 is not too bad. It's not too old. And I know that from what I've heard is that from Mayor Pro Tem is that a lot of people have talked about this to them at least, right? And so I think that's also an important consideration to make. Can you go back to the picture of sort of the final potential recommendation? See, what I worry about with this is that then we're gonna have an event at the Plaza where there's speakers at the front, and then just like 4 groups of people sort of congregating in 4 different areas as opposed to like sort of in the middle and the center. As someone who has led rallies or any of these events, it doesn't feel good to not have an audience in front of you when that's the entire intent of an event. Those are just some of my thoughts. Again, my 2 biggest considerations are price tag and have we really worked enough with
organizations that do the most on the plaza to be able to make a final decision. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you for that. Just a couple things, Councilor. Actually, former Councilor Greg Smith, representing the Arts Council, asked if much like what you said, if these other organizations could help design. I think it's a foregone, they want shade. I mean, they understand that they need it. And I was able to Google an old article. It was dated January 2nd, 2018, where it says, well, it actually says city funds shade structures, kiosks for Plaza, welcome signs for Interstate. But we really hadn't. And at that time, the cost was $750,000. And one of the counselors was concerned because remember I told you it wasn't quite permanent and you can kind of take off different portions. If you want 3/4 of it, you have 3/4. You want the whole thing, do half or a quarter. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, in fact, they were supposed to get me a resolution from those 3 organizations, a letter of support saying they need shade. We need shade. We just do. It was promised when we first built this plaza, and every year we found some reason not to fund it. And we've got a state senator who is willing to reauthorize the amount, and if we turn her down, it just makes us. I mean, that's, I just don't think that's the smart thing to do. I mean, it's going to be used one way or the other, and I think, I mean, it's hot. It's hot there. It's just really hot, and that's why I really have to circle back to that presentation in 2018. I guess it was 2018. I thought it was longer. So it must have been January 2nd, because we don't meet on the 1st. So I'll ask Adrian if he can pull that January 2nd meeting and see if he can send me the video, and I'll look through it. And it'll have the name of the company who did the shade. Any other questions? Commissioner, you have any comments on the shade? You like shade, or you like to be out there in the hot sun, 110 degrees burning? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like shade, and I like sun as well. What I do,
What is it with that chair? Everyone who sits there, it's like I can never get, either for it or against it. I'm just joking. I'm just messing with you.
are you saying you want me to take a position?
Yeah. Are you for shade or are you against shade?
Well, I'm for shade. I'm for shade. I'm looking at the 3 designs. This is actually, I didn't get a chance to look at them before I was out of town the last meeting. Looking at the 3 plans that you have, I'm not particularly fond of any of them. That's just my position. Okay. But as far as the costs go, I think I do agree that if we have the money and we have a plan that we can all live with, we should probably think seriously about trying to fund something. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I agree. I'm really not fond of these 3 either. That's why I circle back to the other one. Because that one, I thought, I don't know if you recall, maybe you just came on board, Councilor Flores. It was 2018. You were elected in 17? Yeah, so this would have been one of your first meetings, second or third work session.
Well, if I'm-
Yeah, you go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do recall being at the charrette when it was presented by the architects, and I too do not remember. But so I don't know if it was January 2018, because I remember it was probably 2018 when we saw the presentation. At any rate, and everybody participated. It was SRO. It was literally SRO. There were so many people from the community there, and we used up rooms 2007A and B, and everybody participated. They had this electronic thing where you could just vote. So, and you just reported, Chris, that, and maybe you did last time too, that, well, no, you're reporting today, that the 3 that we finalized were not, the ones that the council liked weren't the ones that the public liked. Am I correct in understanding that?
Mr. Chair, Board Member Flores, yeah, the number 1 from the public was, retractive canvas, but has its issues because of the weather around here.
And you don't have a picture for that?
It's right there.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, if you look, you can see the difference between the ones on the plaza. So that would have canvas that stretched out across cables that went across, but that obviously has issues with the cables. The translucent one was the second most popular based on the data I had, and that would be more off to the sides of the plaza. And then the decorative metal one was the one that had the lowest amount of public support. But you know, what we could do is we could, you know, take all this data and all the input and get back with the consultants and kind of see if they have some other options that take into some of the art, you know, the art style that we're kind of looking for. Maybe it's not complete shade on the plaza, and just see if they can come up with something. Maybe there's a more affordable option we can have them look at as well.
Well, there's, excuse me, two concerns I have. Number one, if the public, for those who attended, and as I said, it was definitely SRO. You may remember that. Do you remember that, Chris?
I was not there at
You
that
weren't
time,
there?
no.
Oh, my God. But, yeah, so, yeah, it was a large group of people and a lot of people. So what happens to how they selected their preferable design? I'm just saying that as a matter of practice. I mean, why have these charrettes and then not follow the lead of what, you know, follow what the people voted on? And if it's a practical matter of some sort, well, practical insofar as expense is a factor, but if it's, you know, like some of the designs that we saw, those three designs we saw today, one is too expensive, one doesn't really give a lot of shade, and then as Councilor Bencomo pointed out, one of the designs actually separates people. So maybe we should go back to the drawing board, but I definitely agree with the mayor that this is money that has been allocated, and it looks like Senator Hamblin is willing to pick up the ball or pick up the whatever the next step to assure that that funding comes to the city. Is there any projection as to or is there any change in the estimated cost from the original? Because things change a lot from 2018 or 2019, whenever that was.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chair.
Have they gone higher than what you presented today?
Mr. Chair, Board Member Flores, so all these prices on here I did adjust for the current prices. So this, the final one here, the decorative metal was actually a little under $1 million when they presented to you last August. Working with Public Works and going with the 30% cost estimate, that's where the 1.3 million comes from, so.
So that's been adjusted. Okay, so anyway, my question remains, what do we do with public input? And it's true, we're the final determinants here, but, or determinators, whatever. But I don't know, it just seems to me that's a big factor. Do you have the design that the public voted for, the number one design?
Mr. Chair, Board Member Flores, so the one that ranked the highest was the retractable canvas option.
Oh, the one that is susceptible to the,
Right. Yeah, because it would,
to
in
the
order for
elements.
something like this to work, you'd probably need to add extra pillars in the middle, and that was something that was one of the do not do's that we gave to the consultant, so. This option here would, if you went with the cabling would be across the plaza, and that would interfere with tree and chili drop and all that sort of stuff, so.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Faber. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner, do you have another comment?
Mr. Mayor, yes, sir, if you don't mind. You said that this popular version is actually the canvas is retractable and leaving the cables. Is it possible to make the canvas disconnectable so that when we want to retract it, we disconnect it from the west side and retract it back to the east side, thereby allowing us to continue with the chili drop and the Christmas tree?
Mr. Chair, Board Member Reynolds, that's something we could certainly ask the consultants. I don't know if that was asked of them at the time or if that's possible. You're basically suggesting that the cabling as well as the canvas all retract so that when it's not in use, there's nothing over the plaza. So, and we could certainly see if that's an option. I don't know if it is or not, but can't hurt to ask.
I would think I would think it wouldn't add a lot to the expense of what we're already looking at, and would yet allow us to roll it up when it's going to be windy, roll it up for other events, and then pull it out when we want it. The other option would be to make the poles retractable, bring it all down, and then cover it with some surface below the other surface. Just drop it into the ground, throw a plate over it, make it normal surface, and then push it back up. But that's hasn't even been looked at yet. So I would think this is a pretty good option for what we're looking at. The retractable disconnect, put the cables away along with the canvas. That's my recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, anyone else? Sorry, anyone else? Okay. So you're going to need a little bit of direction from us. So I think really, Chris, I think the majority would like to move forward. We need to get this resolution from the senator, and perhaps, I don't know, it didn't seem like the council was too enthusiastic with these options, and whether or not we want to go back to look at something that might be, or the suggestion the commissioner had, see if that's even viable, and if not, then perhaps maybe look at something different. Is that what I'm hearing? See, this is what happened in 2018. That's why it didn't, because it never really got approved back then. It was just discussion, and then certain council members didn't want it because it was going to cover the whole amount. We could have bought half. We could have bought a 3/4. I just said, I suggested just buy it all of it and then put what we need. This really isn't a very difficult thing to figure out here.
I just feel we need to move forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think what we'll do is, if it's okay with you, we'll reach out to these three, the Downtown Partnership, the Cultural District, and the Arts Council wanted to be a part of it too.
Correct.
And so let's put together an ad hoc committee and let them come together. If you all want to appoint someone to this, we'll do that, come up with some designs that might be beneficial to some of the events that we have, whether it's a chili drop, whether it's the Christmas tree, and just see what other options are out there. Perhaps we could find some a little bit cheaper.
I
And
agree.
the difference we'll put some new furniture in Councilor Bencomo's office. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, so we'll just do that then. I think we're going to move forward, Chris, but maybe not with this particular set. But if you could find out on whether it's retractable or not. I just took it for granted that had already been looked into, but if you haven't, that would be good.
Will do, Mr. Chair.
Okay, anything else before we close? Okay, thanks, Chris. So if there's, if there's nothing further, and entertain a motion to adjourn as the TID board.
Motion to adjourn.
Second by Flores.
Motion made by Board Member Bencomo, second by Board Member Flores, that we adjourn. Christine?
This is on the motion to adjourn the TID board meeting. Board Member Abeyta-Stuvey.
Yes.
Board Member Vasquez is absent. Board Member Bencomo.
Yes.
Board Member Sorg is absent. Board Member Flores.
Yes.
Board Member Gondara.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes. Okay, it's 1:35 p.m. We are now adjourned as the board, TID board, and just need a minute or two to switch over to the City Council work session.